Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Rudolph had a certain measure of trust in Kyrie's unique thinking technique. Chessboard thinking. Of course, it didn't give him any more peace of mind than fortune-telling. But every time Rudolph was polishing up some important strategy, he'd give a great deal of thought to Kyrie's advice. For a while, Kyrie pressed her finger against her forehead, considering. Judging by the fact that her arrival was kept hidden until today, she must be planning to catch us by surprise in some way. We can't tell for sure whether she's after assets or being recognized as a relative. However, her coming was kept secret until today, which probably means she didn't want us to take any measures against her, something we might have done if we had known beforehand. So her goal is probably something that could be hindered if we were to take measures against her, understand? I get it. So if she had a will that father had already written, or something that could prove that she's a blood relative. Blood relative. If she had some unshakable, rock-solid proof like that, you'd think she'd announce it beforehand. That's right. On the contrary, since we're in a position to doubt her, she should have brought a lawyer or an expert and thrust some completely undeniable proof before us, if she could. So the mere fact that she's launching a surprise attack shows that our foe can't win with a frontal assault. Makes sense. If a trump card can win no matter what, it's best to play it out in the open. If you play it in a roundabout way, it might end up weakening its impact. Skipping to the conclusion. We can probably expect to be faced with some huge surprise. Something related either directly or indirectly to the inheritance problem. That's on everyone's minds. Our opponent probably plans to overawe us simply by the impact of this shock. However, no matter how great the impact might be, it cannot be absolute. In other words, we have enough leeway to take advantage of this. You've really got brains. Even understanding just this much is really reassuring. In other words, you're telling us not to get sucked into our opponent's pace. In the end, it's an extremely simple conclusion. No matter what our opponent brings up, we should deal with it calmly without rushing things. This is just the very first step in the art of negotiation. You really can't say you've predicted your opponent's thoughts with just this. Come on. Just like usual, that was pretty good. Now that we know we've got a little leeway to attack, it helps us relax a bit. What we don't know is how she's connected to Kraus Nissan. Will it be a surprise for Kraus Nissan too, or was he actually the one who called her here in the first place? If it's the latter, that might make things very troublesome. That's right. Secretly calling a mystery woman on the day of the family conference. It would be in terrible taste, but it does feel like something Nissan would do. Aneke, let's do this. As long as she can't clearly prove her identity, we won't accept her position in any way. That would be for the best. Already she's refused to introduce herself to Kyrie-san. We can't let our conference be disturbed by the statements of some unknown woman. She might even show us proof that she's a blood relative. If she can prove father's blood runs through her veins, like with a maternity record document, there's nothing we can do. It's always possible to suspect that physical evidence has been faked. And even if it's real, in order to prove that the person in the documents is the person we see, we need to check their condition at a hospital. At the very least, it'd be impossible to prove that now on Rokkenjima. Rokkenjima! Rokkenjima! You're right. So in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now on Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. We can't believe anything until the typhoon passes, and they proved it to us at the proper place. Giggle. Spotting all kinds of holes and stuff like this is a Nekke's specialty. We'll be counting on you. Are you joking? You'll be helping too. We need the money. We need it quickly and a large sum. Our fates are all tied together in this. As if we just stand by and let some suddenly appearing mystery woman destroy the inheritance we're after. Rudolph and Ava always formed a united front as siblings at a time like this, sickened by the idea that their own inheritance might be snatched away by an outsider. Kyrie noticed how indomitable they looked, shook her head slightly, and gave a small sigh as she gazed out the window. Outside it was still raining heavily, and everything was gray, having lost all vibrance. The lush garden that the sun had shone on earlier now felt like a lie. For some reason, the words Ava said a second ago kept repeating in Kyrie's head. So in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us on Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. There was an odd nuance to those words. At that moment, the island was closed off by the typhoon and isolated. They had access to no public institutions and no hospital. So on the island, no matter what manner of proof related to the outside world was shown, it would always be possible to call it a lie. It would be impossible to prove that something was the truth. Now that they were isolated from the outside, all truths whose proof lay in the outside world would be called lies. So does that mean that right now on this Rokkenjima no truth exists at all? Does it mean that everything will now be ruled by lies alone? It almost gives the illusion that we have left the human world of truth and have been shut away inside another world, one of lies. Kyrie remembered that woman's appearance one more time. She remembered both what she had looked like and the witch of the portrait. On this island, which had been cut off from the world of humans and shut away in the world of non-humans, a non-human being has come to visit. Kyrie couldn't think of the smile that had appeared on the woman's face as anything other than a portent of misfortune. I get the feeling my chessboard thinking missed a vital premise, one that'll be necessary to understand that misfortune-bearing smile. Yes, that smile made me feel as though someone inhuman was mocking me. I've based my reasoning on the assumption that our opponent is a human, like us. However, just like this island is now, she may be a being that isn't human, and human values may not matter to her. If that's true, all of our reasoning is useless. For what reason has the witch been invited here today? Only one thing is certain. Now, in this instance, she's staying somewhere in this vast mansion. Maria? Around lunchtime today, we met her outside, right? A woman? Who was she? Ooh, I said it over and over. Beatrice! Maria, did you ever meet Beatrice before that? Ooh, I've met her every year. Every year? In this mansion on Rokkenjima? Ooh. I don't know what ooh means. Is that true? Yes. How long have you been meeting her? How many years ago did it start? Ooh, I don't know. You don't know? What do you mean? Was it last year? 2 years ago? Longer than that. As long as I can remember. Rosa was astonished. Only the Ushiromiya family mansion existed on this island, so there couldn't have been any other humans other than themselves here, and yet Maria said she had been meeting with this suspicious woman every year during the family conference. If what Maria said was the truth, then that strange woman called Beatrice had been at the family conference every year. That's insane. Is Maria saying that eerie woman was at the family conference every year and none of us ever noticed it? Even though Rosa had just met the woman herself a couple hours ago in the Rose Garden, she was overcome with a strange emotion that told her not to accept that existence. What in the world did I meet with earlier today in the Rose Garden as the typhoon grew near and the winds roared? Maria? You said you've met with her every year. What do you two do when you meet? Ooh, we sing songs and learn magic, and I learned how to draw magic circles. Really? That's incredible. Maria, you often draw scribbles. I mean, magic circles in your notebook, right? Did she teach you that too? Ooh, you know what? Beatrice drew examples to teach me. Come on, look. Maria joyfully fished around in her handbag. Then she drew out a single notebook and began opening to that page. Most of the pages were covered with drawings that were literally scribbles. All of them were occult-like things. And while it might sound rude to Maria, who was joyfully flipping through the pages, they were all creepy. Look, here. Beatrice drew it. Ooh. Ow. Each one of the pages in the group Maria opened to had an eerie magic circle. Furthermore, at a glance, Rosa could see that Maria hadn't drawn them. The strength of the strokes, the thickness of the lines, how clean the shape was. By itself, it wasn't enough to guess the background of the person who had written it, but it was enough for Rosa to be sure that it was someone older than Maria. Rosa had to accept it now. There really was a person in Rokkenjima that she herself hadn't known existed until now. And this person had come to the family conference every year to play with Maria. Maria, does the witch Beatrice live here? Or does she live outside the island like us? Ooh, Beatrice is the witch of Rokkenjima, so she lives on this island. So you're saying she's on the island even on days when isn't the family conference, right? Ooh. I don't know what ooh means. Yes or no? Yes. Ooh. But what in the... I can't believe it. How long was this unknown witch been living on this island? I used to live on this island. I lived on this island, passing the time in the mansion in the Rose Garden, and even so I never encountered a witch like that. Right? Mama? Mama? What's wrong? Mama? My head hurts. I was probably getting a little mixed up with my memories from when I was a young girl. When I was young, I was terrified of the witch, unlike Maria, so for me, the name Beatrice was a synonym for terror. Surely my fear from those days has been revived by the appearance of a woman going by that name. She can't be a witch. She's obviously a human calling herself Beatrice, right? That's right. The witch entrusted me with an envelope. What in the world could that be? Rosa pulled the western envelope out of her pocket. It was one of the envelopes that bore the Ushiromiya family crest which Kinzo used for his personal letters, and its red sealing wax had even been sealed by the hedged ring which Kinzo held, which meant this envelope belonged to the Ushiromiya family head. In other words, it was from Father. Why was a woman calling herself Beatrice holding, and why did she give it to me? That's right. I'm sure she said to read this aloud at dinner. What in the world could be written inside? A sense of uncertainty gripped Rosa, as if opening this envelope might let loose incredible misfortune. However, at the same time, a little curiosity sprouted up too, urging her to find out what was written inside before the other siblings could. Using common sense, one might guess that it contained a huge decision somehow related to Father's inheritance. Actually, since she had received it from a woman who called herself Beatrice, there simply had to be some connection. Does it mean this person wants, not just the 4, but a total of 5 people to be included in the inheritance? I need a large sum of money, and I can't wait long. I felt like such a sinful daughter for discussing father's inheritance while he's still alive, but this is no time to spout off cheap ideals, and I've even colluded Rudolf Nissan and Ava Nissan in order to get some money out of Kraus Nissan. Coming from that position, I can't help but see the appearance of the witch as a sign of approaching misfortune. What could be written in here? I'm sure it's something frightening. Shall I read it secretly myself first? The witch requested that it be read at the dinner table, with everyone gathered. But if that's what she wanted, why couldn't she just read it aloud herself at dinner? Why did she go to all the trouble of entrusting it to me? Simply put, is it because she doesn't mind if I read it secretly beforehand? It'd be better to secretly read the contents first. I understand that'd mean breaking my promise. But this is no longer the time for cheap ideals. Depending on the contents, I should probably discuss it with Ava Nissan and Rudolf Nissan too. They're always really good thinkers when it comes to this kind of thing. When I gulped, I put my hand to the red sealing wax. Something suddenly pulled on my sleeve, and I let out a small scream. Well, what? Maria? Don't scare me like that. What is it? Ooh. You mustn't. Huh? And Maria's expression was the same portent of misfortune she'd felt from that witch, and it sent a tingle up her spine. Beatrice told Mama to read that letter during dinner. You mustn't break a promise with a witch. Kee-hee-hee? That's not it. I just wanted to look at the envelope for a second. I'll keep my promise. After all, I always tell you to keep your promises. Of course I keep my promises. Yes, Mama's a good girl. That laugh. It isn't cute, so stop it. Ooh? Come to think of it, you received a letter too, Maria. What was written inside? I haven't opened it. Beatrice said I mustn't open it until the time to open it comes. Well, how do you know when that is? When is the time? How do you know when the time is? So I'm taking good care of it. I mean, that's all well and good. I mean, but how will you know when it's time to open the envelope? Ooh. I see. You listen well to what Beatrice says, don't you, Maria? Ooh? I'm Beatrice's disciple, so I listen well to what my teacher says. I see. Rosa realized something. Mixed in with Maria's gaze was the glint of someone that wasn't her. If Rosa broke the rules and opened the envelope here, Beatrice would definitely learn of it. Because Maria was the witch's disciple. Maria was in contact with that witch. I'll keep my promise, so tell Beatrice not to worry, okay? Ooh, I'll tell her. Hey, Maria, if I wanted to speak to Beatrice, how could I meet her? I don't know. Beatrice is very fickle, so she always appears suddenly. I don't know a way to get her to meet me. But you know, she's always watching me. So if I get in trouble, she'll definitely come and save me afterwards. She's definitely erased her form and is hiding close to me. Kihihihi. Don't I always tell you to stop laughing like that? Rosa reflexively hit Maria on the head. That put a stop to Maria's laughing, but it wasn't able to erase the color that had risen to those eyes, a color that seemed to bear a portent of misfortune. Rosa swore. She swore that, at least until they left the island, she would not leave Maria alone. She couldn't allow an unknown being to make direct contact with her daughter any longer. Maria still hasn't come back. I wonder if she's getting scolded by Aunt Rosa again. Ever since they met Maria at the airport, she had been romping around chatting about Halloween the whole time. But maybe she cut loose a little too much, acting a little too boisterous on the plane, on the boat, and during lunch, because Rosa had cautioned her several times. At times like that, Aunt Rosa tended not to scold her much in front of people. More often, she would take Maria aside and scold her alone. So since Maria had been called off somewhere, they figured she must be getting scolded. When they looked at the clock, they realized it was almost 6 o'clock. Of course, they couldn't imagine she'd be getting scolded all this time. Maybe it was time for some anime she watched every week to start. She probably hadn't left the mansion's parlor. Maybe Battler-sama woke up and they've been playing together. After all, Maria-chan thinks of Battler-kun as a new friend. She must have had a lot of fun when she played Halloween with Battler-kun at the airport. Battler looked like he was having a lot of fun himself. Maybe he's gotten big. But he hasn't changed a bit. That's true. I get the feeling Battler-sama was gracious enough to remain as he was 6 years ago. Shannon, do you remember what he was like then? Yes, because he was very energetic, giggle. I also remember the 4 of us playing together 6 years ago. Shannon acted a lot like a big sister back then. That's right. I get the feeling she was even more dependable then than she is now. Ha 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 ha. But back then I didn't truly understand my place, so I did quite a few rude things. Don't worry about understanding your place in that sense. When you're on the job is one thing, but when you're taking your break and with us, like now, I'd rather you stay and be friendly, just like the old days. That's right. There's nothing wrong with acting differently depending on whether you're the servant, Shannon, or off-duty Sayo. You aren't a slave, you're just working as a servant, right? I think of you, Shannon, no Sayo, as my oldest friend. Thank you very much, my lady. It seemed that Shannon understood the hidden meaning behind Jessica's words. After all, she'd heard a bit about Jessica and Cannon's history from both of them. Apparently George had heard something of that history too. He walked toward the window and looked up at the darkening rainy sky. Cannon may still be childish in some ways, but I think he's starting to grow a bit in his own way of thinking. Well, come on, quit it already. Well, I guess I let myself get swept away by the mood once or twice. You know, after watching you two, I might have gotten a bit jealous, feeling like I was getting left behind. Forget about me. More importantly, how is it going between you two? Looks like it's going pretty good, huh? I wonder. Yes, it's going very well. Shannon was lost for words, her face red, while George answered brightly and immediately. That carefree attitude made it easy to see that their relationship was proceeding perfectly. It'd make anyone envious. Dang, I'm jealous. So, does that mean Shannon's going to resign and have a party soon? I wonder. Oh, there's a good question. I wonder what she'll say. George laughed teasingly as though pressing Shannon for an answer. It was probably the way they usually flirted when they were alone. Jessica would only smile bitterly and say, yes, thank you, that's enough. I have a dream. I don't just mean some ambition to become the leader of my own domain in business. I also have a dream of building a happy family together with a partner I can spend my life with. I want 2 kids at the very least. It'd be nice to be able to do some sports as a whole family, and many more things besides that. I often talk with Shannon about that kind of thing. Though, every time I do, she always laughs and says I'm getting ahead of myself. For some reason, even at the age I am now, I find myself thinking about what it'd be like to live peacefully in my old age, with healthy grown-up kids and grandchildren running around all over the place. If only I could spend the rest of my life at a slow pace, surrounded by that, together with Shannon forever. Yeah, you're definitely getting ahead of yourself. But how should I say it? It sounds like you, George Nissan. Being surrounded by a family like that would probably be so wonderful. The ideal family I've painted in my mind is something like that. To Shannon, who had been raised in an orphanage, that harmonious image of a family was probably something to be yearned for. And George, who had made an absolute promise to grant that wish for her, may truly have been a fitting person for her to spend her life with. To Jessica, Shannon was a precious friend. George was surely the one most fit to entrust that friend's future to. Well, I don't want to throw cold water on you guys, but Uncle Hideyoshi aside, what are you going to do about Aunt Ava? Won't it be pretty tough to win her over? Aha, there's no reason for anyone to worry about something like that. No one but me gets any say in who I choose to be my partner. I will bring Shannon happiness. Whose permission do I need for that? Whoa, George Nissan, that was cool. Can't believe you say stuff like that embarrassing out loud. I don't remember you ever being that kind of character in the past. As they say, if you don't see a boy for 3 days, you should watch him closely. I grow as much as anyone. I intend to study more and more and grow to be the man Shannon deserves, the one who can bring her happiness. Maybe even George realized how embarrassing the words coming out of his mouth were. His face turned very slightly red and he scratched his head. George-san? It's okay. I'm sure Mother will be difficult, but you can leave that to me. You'll see. I'll make all the relatives accept you as my partner. Awesome! I'm jealous of you, Shannon, seriously. I'm very grateful that you're willing to go so far. Come to think of it, I'm starting to feel like a third wheel here. Maybe I'd better leave, huh? As Jessica rose with a forced smile from the bed she'd been sitting on, the phone rang. Before Jessica picked up the receiver, wondering what this could be about, Shannon looked at the clock and jumped. Apparently, she'd spent too much time on her break. I'm sorry. I forgot it was time for work. Then if you excuse me. At the same time Jessica picked up the phone, Shannon began dashing out of the room. Shannon. Again, the usual time at the usual place. Yes. Excuse me. Hello, it's Jessica. Genji-san. Yeah, Shannon's going back to you guys now. We held her up, so please don't scold her. Yes. I see. So, it's almost time for them to get ready for dinner. Many plates were lined up on the counter in the kitchen. Preparations for dinner were proceeding steadily. The number of plates lined up there was 19. That was one more than should have been set up for the annual family conference. I can't accept it. Why can't I deliver it directly? Goda-san flared up at Genji, paying no heed to the pot that was spitting steam. The master enjoyed eating alone in his study, so his food needed to be served in that room. However, that was something that always happened. Of course, Goda-san would want to set the table for the master with his own hands, since he'd put his heart and soul into his cooking. But the master had imposed a strict rule that none but the servants bearing the golden eagle crest enter his study. So while Goda-san would be able to greet the master from outside the study, not once had he been granted the honor of carrying his cooking inside. Goda-san was always irritated by this. Of course, he was a newcomer in terms of years of service. However, he had piled up plenty of experience from his previous jobs, and he was quite confident that he had been able to perform in front of Kinzo in a manner that would do him no disservice. And yet, simply because he was not permitted to wear the golden eagle, he still hadn't been blessed with this honor. Can you imagine what damage that would do to his pride? You might think tonight was a repeat of that, but it wasn't. Because tonight, there was a person other than the master who wanted their food carried to their room. Apparently, this person is an extremely rare and honored guest, and we've been given strict orders to treat them in the same manner as the master, the family head. Goda-san must have wanted to earn some points by serving this honored guest with his own hands. After all, he was an extremely vain person. If he wasn't qualified to serve the master, then at least a guest of the same rank. He simply couldn't find time during lunch, so Kanon-san had gone in his place. So he truly desired to personally serve this person tonight's meal, the best dinner of the year. But Genji-san had put a stop to that. Something about how Goda-san didn't wear the golden eagle. After being told once more that he wasn't qualified, Goda-san lost his patience. Ah, so heartrending, Goda-san. I cannot do anything more than watch like this from the shadows. Kumasawa-san, if you have enough free time to dawdle around, please get the dining hall ready. Is the tablecloth set? Oh, my apologies. When it became her turn to bear his wrath, Kumasawa slid out into the hall. Beatrice-sama is of exactly the same rank as the master. All rules regarding her are to be respected, just as much as those involving the master. Goda-san, please devote your attention entirely towards your own task and serve all the relatives. I wouldn't mind if it was you, Genji-san. But is it really okay to let a child like this serve such a guest? If she made some blunder, it would be quite embarrassing. I know they've served here a long time, but that doesn't mean they've been trained in the proper areas. If you allow me to speak freely, they are completely lacking in the fundamentals that might qualify them to interact with such a guest. The sound of low self-esteem. Goda spoke bluntly, even though Shannon was standing right there in the kitchen, feeling, well, just as worthless as always. Her and Cannon could both use a hug. Probably Genji too, but we really don't get to hear that part of Genji. Shannon was the one whom Genji had ordered to carry the dinner to Beatrice's room. By the ranking system among the servants permitted to wear the Golden Eagle, Shannon certainly was the second highest in rank. If the highest ranked Genji went to set the table in Kinzo's room, then it fell to Shannon to set the table in Beatrice's room. Goda's pride was always horribly injured by this ranking system. At times like this, he'd speak out bluntly and rudely against Shannon and Cannon. Goda kept raising examples of each Shannon's failures until now, making a ruckus about how she couldn't do this or was terrible at that. Shannon, who listened to this with her head hung in shame, heard Cannon's voice from behind her. Cannon had been leaning against the wall in the hallway near the kitchen entrance, a blind spot from the inside, and had been listening to all of this. He probably knew that if he entered the kitchen, sparks would start to fly his way. I've got to say it, the man's scum. But we could learn a lot about the fundamentals of entertaining guests from him. Goda-san has learned so much, so he'd be a great reference. Humph. Nay, son, you sure are nice. More importantly, is the guest in the VIP room really Beatrice-sama as they say? Yes. I met her when I was sent to serve her lunch. There can be no doubt it's her. But really, was she doing well? Cannon remembered that he and Shannon had different impressions of Beatrice. To Shannon, Beatrice was a cupid of love, who had granted her magic to establish a relationship with George. Judging by that expression that rose to her face, it looked like she couldn't wait to inform Beatrice of how her relationship with George had progressed. However, Cannon already knew. That witch came here with a terrifying goal in mind, the nebulous witch that only they'd been able to see in the past, had now revived so fully that she could walk openly through the front door, and even have dinner carried to her. Once, when she'd vanished from in front of Cannon, the witch said something about how her own power was still weak, so if that witch was now appearing so openly, did it mean she'd finally regained her former power? And she said something else, too. She definitely said that she had sown seeds of love, while fully aware that they would fail. And she said even more. She definitely said that the day had finally come upon which the door to the Golden Land would be opened. Shannon, she's planning to hold some bizarre ceremony with the Master, and you can bet it'll be something too horrible to imagine, and no one will be able to resist. What are you talking about? She came here as the Master requested, so the door to the Golden Land would open, and so that everything would be returned to the Golden Land. She definitely said that to me. In the past, the two of them as furniture working for Kenzo had been told what opening the door to the Golden Land implied, so Shannon understood everything without having to ask a single question, and because of that she felt a deep despair. Something tore at Cannon's heart as he looked at the expression twisted with grief. How could... Why? Why now? Didn't I tell you? We are furniture. Because you acted like a human because of love, you're incapable of obediently accepting the day of service. Our service comes to an end. Once I wished this day would come, but it never came year after year. I didn't know how long we'd be forced to endure suffering as furniture. So I thought the day of rest wouldn't come for all eternity. I thought the same thing, but I believed that it would definitely come someday, so I never forgot that I'm furniture. But Nason, you did forget. It's my fault, isn't it? It was I who... Yeah, it's your fault, Nason. If only you hadn't experienced love, we'd both be happy that this day had finally come. You built up too many pointless regrets, even though you knew you'd have to leave this world someday. Will the ceremony begin tonight? Yes. And she said one more thing. Tonight, George-sama will probably give you an engagement ring, Nason. That was a fact. George supposedly had an engagement ring hidden in his pocket today, and he would surely hand it over tonight. She brought you two together planning to use you as sacrifices of the second twilight. Get it? She tempted you and took advantage of you. I see. I never thought of that. But she told me. She promised that if you don't accept the engagement ring tonight, you won't be chosen as a sacrifice, Nason. I think our chances of being able to go to the Golden Land together are very slim. There will be 13 sacrifices. Only 5 will be left alive. The chances of us being part of that group are tiny, but if you just accept her offer, those chances will rise. I want to take that bet. Our salvation is in the Golden Land. We're going to reach that place and gain humanity, and then I want to live life as a human together with you, Nason. If we do that, we might be able to find true love. In the past, we used to dream about being able to go to the Golden Land. If we go there, any wish will be granted. We'll be saved from this little pain. We'll be saved from this pain. That's what we believed. However, in this ceremony, only a few people would be invited to the Golden Land, chosen by fate and chance. Everyone else would lose their life as a sacrifice midway through the ceremony. However, in the past, Shannon and Cannon had thought that whether they reached the Golden Land or were sacrificed, they would still be released from their duties as furniture. That meant this ceremony would definitely bring release to furniture like them, no matter what happened. I don't like it. Together with you, I want to make up for all the suffering we've endured. I won't become a sacrifice. Nason and I will remain alive, and we'll reach the Golden Land together. So I won't let you become the sacrifice of the second twilight. Please, Nason, don't accept that man's ring. If you don't accept it, she promised not to select you as a sacrifice. I cannot do that. Tonight's ring is very special. My heart won't let me refuse it. Nason! The sacrifice of the ceremony decided on the witch's whims, and that witch has promised to overlook just you, Nason. You alone will definitely be able to go to the Golden Land. Only me? What about you, Cannon-kun? The witch's game is enough for me. I'll slip through her clutches. I am not powerless. I'll tightly grasp that faint chance. After all, our lives are transient, aren't they? In order to begin our real lives, let's drag ourselves to the Golden Land. Then we will gain humanity. And when we've done that, maybe I'll be able to experience romance, just like you, Nason. Maybe I won't have to make someone cry just because I'm furniture. Cannon-kun, I've had enough of being furniture. I'll definitely become human. I'll escape this pain, no matter what. There were tears in Cannon's eyes. By now Cannon had noticed Shen had been the only one to know and suffer from the taste of love. He had too. The tears Jessica had shown him that day, and Jessica's pitiful face as she tried to smooth things over and stay bright ever since then, had slowly wrought some kind of change on Cannon's heart without him knowing it. Shannon? I have been calling to you for some time now. Shannon jumped at the sudden sound of Genji's voice. Apparently he had called for her repeatedly. She hurriedly answered. When she turned back, Cannon had disappeared. It seemed he didn't feel like showing his tears to anybody. Yes, I'm sorry for being careless. I entrusted Cannon with lunch, but it should have been you, as the next in rank after me who carried it. Beatrice Sum is the most honored guest of this house. There is no more honored guest than her. Please think of her as another master, and be polite. Please, take extra care that you make no blunders, understand? It is quite painful for me to entrust this to someone as inexperienced as yourself, but there's nothing we can do about the house's rules. Carry out your duties with the utmost care. Go-to-head officially agreed, but he glared at Shannon with an expression that told her he definitely wouldn't forgive any mistakes. Even Shannon felt that Go-to might as well go himself if he was so desperate to go, but she considered this one of her responsibilities, as one who had been allowed to wear the golden eagle, and had to give up. And anyway, I wanted to meet Beatrice. What will I talk about? What will I ask? I don't know. Will this be a meeting of gratitude or one of grief? Or else, what? I don't know. Shannon piled the witch's food on the serving cart and left the kitchen at a slow pace. The person knocking was Kraus. Father, today is our annual family conference. Haven't the siblings gathered here just to get a glimpse of you? Ah, be silent. I say I won't leave. You're there too, aren't you, Genji? Why haven't you had my food brought here as I ordered you to? Kinzo screamed across the door. Genji was waiting behind Kraus. Your meal has been prepared so that it might be carried to the study. However, Kraus-sama has expressed his wish that you eat downstairs tonight. Father, I'm not asking you to do this every day. Just for this one night, won't you gather together with your family? Who are you calling family? Since when have you considered vultures circling in wait for roadkill to be family? Would you call rotting, oozing maggots family as well? My. Kraus shrugged at this answer, which he had half expected. Genji, carry the meal here as you were told. Why don't you listen to what I say? Why? Genji-san, I leave this in your capable hands. My voice will no longer reach that man. Kraus gave his head a small shake, then quickly turned his back on the door to the study. He had only come calling to save face in front of his siblings, knowing full well how useless this was. After Genji watched Crouch disappear down the stairs, he called again across the door. Master, we have finished preparations for your meal to be carried here. Shall we bring some for Dr. Nanjo as well? Nanjo could be seen in the study. Because Kinzo had forcefully pestered him into finishing their long-lasting chess game, they had been playing against each other since early evening. Nanjo had announced as a doctor that Kinzo's days were numbered, so he couldn't refuse if Kinzo demanded that they finish the game while he still lived. Kinzo was thinking deeply about his next move, concentrating more than usual. It had been Kinzo's turn for quite some time, and Nanjo, who was tired of waiting, had randomly pulled out a book on magic that he couldn't understand and was skimming it. Kinzo-san, you won't think of a good move just by folding your arms and sitting in front of the board. Perhaps we had better take a break and refresh our minds. Be silent. That should be enough to solidify my defense. Will the bishop and the knight be able to penetrate that opening? Today, Kinzo was focused on maintaining a strong defense. Normally, Kinzo's motto was that offense was the best defense. However, today was completely the opposite. I am also hungry. Shall we suspend the game here? Besides, I've used my head so much without a break that I'm already feeling dizzy. At this rate, I might not be able to perform at my best. Now that won't do. In chess, both players must always make their best moves. Any other sort of move is merely a nuisance to consider, ruining a game whose focus is predicting your opponent's thoughts. Such a thing considerably reduces our enjoyment. Kenzo sighed deeply and finally shifted his gaze away from the board. Chess isn't chess without an opponent. If that opponent is tired and wants to suspend the game, there's no getting around it. True, the goal of chess is for both players to make the best possible moves and aim for victory. It's an intellectual game where reading your opponent is key. But Kenzo-san, have you forgotten that there's another goal besides victory? What? What other goal could there possibly be? Ha 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 ha! To think that you of all people would forget something like that. Chess is a way to pass the time having fun with a friend. You've got me there. I believe I once said those exact words to you long ago. Yes, you've got me there. Kenzo, who almost always wore a frown, relaxed his face for once and laughed. Nanjo felt like he had been reunited with a close friend he hadn't seen in ages. That's how it is. Now that I've managed to take a shot back at you, what do you say? Will you go down with me and have dinner? Why don't we discuss Kasparov's middle game, along with some coffee? An appealing proposition, but I'm afraid I must decline. I can no longer leave this room. After all, the ceremony has already begun. Is that so? Well, my stomach is growling. I will go downstairs. Anytime you feel like it. Nanjo? Thank you. Oh, what could you be thanking me for? We didn't finish our match. However, it seems I have somehow achieved that second goal of chess, which I had forgotten, and it would appear that goal is no less important than achieving checkmate. This isn't like you. Why so sentimental? You said it yourself, did you not? My days in this world are numbered. Now go, and don't come to this room again. Let us continue this match in the Golden Land. That's fine with me, but we'll have to start over. Losing that rook was a serious blow. Well then, I will see you later. Yes, later. Maybe in the Golden Land or in Purgatory, or possibly in the next world. Sad face, Nanjo. Nanjo didn't say anything beyond that, and with emotion made smooth by familiarity, he pushed the button on the table that would release the auto-lock. Then, after looking at Kenzo's back one last time, he left the study. As he did, Genji's voice came from the hall. If you are ready, master, I will now carry in your dinner. It may be my final dinner. I must savor it. Please prepare it as you wish. And are your preparations complete as well, master? Indeed. In the time leading up to this day, this room has been carefully wrapped in a multitude of barriers. Even if her roulette chooses me, I will definitely repel it. I will remain alive and will surely become one of those who reach the Golden Land. I shall repulse the visit of the reapers trying to drag me off to the land of the dead. Excuse me. I have come to serve your meal. Shannon entered the VIP room, bowing her head and pushing the serving cart. The young woman by the window, gazing out into the supposedly empty darkness, was definitely that witch. So it is Shannon this time. How long it's been. Oh, your face isn't nearly as pale as it once was. I can see you're no canon. I hardly recognize you. Thank you very much. Shannon solemnly prepared dinner. There were actually several things she wanted to ask the witch, but they were all jumbled up and she didn't know where to start. Her heart was also jumbled up and she didn't even understand her own emotions, so she could only do her job dispassionately with everything still vague. However, the witch saw what was in her heart. You can't hide anything from a witch. I won't apologize. I am a witch after all. Apologize for what? Come now. Cannon must have told you about it. I only rescued your love life because of my mischievous spirit. It was nothing more than a seed I sowed so I could watch your love grow complicated, become twisted, and fail. I imagine some people think it's more fun to hear about love than to have it. You couldn't possibly be trying to thank me, right? I am. No matter what kind of ulterior motive you had when you gave me the magic of love, it doesn't change the fact that I received it from you. So even if you sowed that seed knowing that the two of us wouldn't be able to stay together for life, I won't hold a grudge against you. It seems furniture is dull after all. Cackle, cackle. This is where I show my skill by cooking it into something interesting. I don't understand what you're thinking, Beatrice-sama. You are a great witch, and people like us don't even reach your feet, nor can we even imagine your grand thoughts. But there is at least one thing I can say. What is it? Thank you for teaching me to be human. You said it yourself. I am no longer furniture. Be silent, furniture. If you were a true human, hearing the announcement of your death on the day that you will receive an engagement ring should have you dancing around mad with grief. But what are you doing? Your face looks so enlightened, as though you've accepted everything. Truly an anticlimax, furniture. So, apparently emotional maturity and self-control and stoicism is not Beatrice's preferred cup of tea. Not a flavor she enjoys. I wonder what she thinks of René Descartes. It's a French philosopher. No, I am not furniture. Be silent, furniture. I won't be silent, because I'm not furniture. Are you saying you won't obey my orders? Furniture obeys orders, but a human decides for herself whether to obey orders or not, so I won't obey your orders. Ha! Cackle, ha ha ha. I take back what I said. You really are interesting. If I hadn't sowed those seeds, you probably would have allowed the ceremony to control your fate without clinging to any emotions. But now you've grown to become something truly interesting, something that will entertain me to no end. That is well, for I am not fond of boredom. Dinner is ready. Here you go. Doesn't this look delicious? If Goda makes it to the Golden Land, perhaps I shall commission him as my chief cook. I heard from Cannon-kun something about how if I rejected George-san's proposal, you promised not to make me a sacrifice. Indeed, I said as much. You would make an ideal potential sacrifice for the second twilight. But because Cannon cried and screamed, asking that I spare you, I graciously listened to his words, with the condition that you abandon your engagement, of course. See how gracious I am? What a foolish offer, and what a foolish threat. So you used that to thoroughly bully Cannon-kun, did you? Oh, so you comprehend! Apparently Shan had seen through it. She had apparently guessed at how the witch had bullied and humiliated Cannon with that horrible promise as bait. I made him crawl on the carpet and kiss my shoes. And that's not all. Do you want to hear the other ways in which I humiliated him? Shannon silently shook her head. I've finally come to understand you. You like to bully, confuse, and trouble people, and you do it to entertain yourself. So now I know for sure the one single way I can resist you. And what might that be? I don't care about you. I'll carry out the fate that has been given to me. That's all. I won't entertain you. I don't care about you? Huh. The witch's features twisted in hatred for just an instant. It disappeared immediately. But the expression that briefly rose to her face was rare for the witch, whose malicious smile usually never faded for a second. I see. So you might resist me in that way. How amusing. How truly entertaining. I'll kill you. You and your lover both. If that's the fate you've decided upon, do as you will. I won't be afraid, and I won't stand against you. After I don't believe that the cruel fate that's coming is controlled by your will. We humans know nothing about fates that might come to pass in the future. That's why I'll live to the fullest until the last instant, following my convictions and the fate set before me. Fate is just a roll of the dice. There's no malice in it. Even if you claim there is, I won't believe it. Ho? So even though you've quit being furniture, you have no fear of death. It seems you believe this will bore me, but you couldn't be more wrong. The thought of seeing whether you can hold on to that view until the last moment merely serves to intrigue me more and more. I can't stand this. Why did you take the form of a human, appear in front of us to speak with human words and ridicule us? If you hadn't appeared in front of us, if you hadn't predicted the future, we would have been able to live life to the fullest until the last moment. That's what witches do. I live off your fates, reigning as a high order being does over lower order beings. Your fates are nothing more than fragments. If I cut my hands together, I could scoop out as many of those as I want. Just like how no matter what the beef cows I raise might babble, it doesn't change the fact that I'll be having them for dinner. We are powerless, so we cannot fight against your ceremony or fate, but I can make you unhappy right now. Oh? And how are you planning to accomplish this? By walking away from this place right now. No matter how I respond to your words, it will only amuse you. Refusing to respond to your questions is my only method of resisting you. I see. You might be able to take a shot at me, but you cannot defeat me, yes? I have the power to kill anyone for eternity. I cannot wait to see whether you can keep up that resistance and endlessly repeating cycle of death and rebirth. Don't you forget it, okay? You spoke those words yourself. Well then, if you will excuse me, if you need anything, please call me. Shannon gave a reserved bow and faced away. With that gesture, maybe she really did take a shot back at the witch, just as Beatrice had said, because when the witch called out again, she sounded a little more quick-tempered than she had before. Canon thanked me. Can't you? Can't you thank me for bringing you your day of rest? Furniture may be happy when their day of rest comes, but I am a human, so I have nothing to thank you for. Is that all you have to say? You plan to accept George's ring, yes? Don't forget that if you do, I will abandon the promise I made with Canon, the promise that you would not be selected as a sacrifice. If you need anything else, I'll have someone else come. If you will excuse me. A flat-out interruption. Shannon still hadn't answered her, and the sound of the door closing came instead of an answer. Shannon's resistance probably struck far more deeply into the witch than Shannon herself thought, because an expression of hatred once again rose to Beatrice's face. Oh no, I'm not the center of the universe or all-powerful. She had made Canon submit, even though he hadn't been ensnared until the end, whereas Shannon, who had been so easily ensnared before, refused to submit this time. I see. So this state of affairs is amusing after all. Perhaps I really am still young. This is why I haven't tired of life after 1,000 years. This was the most fabulous part of the family conference. Dinner! In the past, when Kenzo had been serious with the conference, he'd taken everyone's yearly gathering for dinner very seriously. Any embarrassments during dinner would shame him greatly as the host, so he had given Natsui stern orders to avoid such mishaps at all costs. Because of that, she and Kraus eventually hired Goda, who had confidence in his cooking abilities. Thanks to that, they became able to serve wonderful dinners that could be confident in. But by that time, Kenzo had closed himself up in his study and never appeared for dinner. Maybe you'd call that ironic. When the main dish for diet calf steak was set out, Goda began to describe it proudly, further stimulating everyone's appetites. The sauce here is Bordelaise. Of course, the red wine base I used was excellent, even among those made in Bordeaux. But in addition, I have prepared an original blend of this house, a blend of choice alcohol from around the world to further deepen the taste. This sauce is limited to this year. I sincerely hope you all enjoy your meal. Isn't that wonderful? However, isn't Bordelaise sauce common to French cooking? It almost seems like using alcohol from outside France, that is heresy. Kraus-sama. Today is the annual family conference. As a dinner for those who normally live far away and who have traveled far across the world to gather together, I realized it would be most fitting to have a sauce made from a blend of fine alcohols from all over the planet that have never met each other before. So I had it specially prepared. Wonderful! A truly wonderful cook, that's what you are. Food and medicine work twice as well if you sell it right. It's already twice as delicious as normal food, and the advertising making it twice as good as that. The taste keeps doubling and doubling. Wahahaha! Giggle. Come on, Nissan. That question of yours was obviously a plant. No doubt about it. You totally set Goda-san up to steal the show on that one. You think so? I thought there might be some people here who didn't notice that today's food was in the French style. After all, Ava just said that avoiding butter was a virtue, but that's the Spanish style. Well, I guess they do share a border, right? That's not what I mean. Will you please not take part of a conversation out of context and make stuff up? It's a very delicious sauce. Goda-san, you certainly are amazing. It is a great honor to receive your praise, and this is all thanks to Madame's habitual guidance. No, it was all Goda's idea. I only listened to the recipe and approved of it. It looked like the siblings quickly got into a loud argument about the sauce. The sauce! But for the most part, dinner proceeded peacefully. However, a certain question they desperately wanted to ask burned inside each one of them. It was about the visitor to the 19th person, the Golden Witch. In actuality, Ava and Rudolph and the rest were very much on their guards during this meal. If the mystery guest was ever going to be introduced, this dinner table would be the most appropriate place to do it. However, no place was set at the dinner table for the witch. The family conference would begin in earnest after the meal, and the previous experiences told them that it might be last until deep into the night. However, they couldn't imagine why such a person should be kept hidden until that late if they were going to be introduced in the end anyway. So Ava and Rudolph and the rest were starting to feel a certain suspicion. Perhaps this guest was unknown even to Kraus. If this wasn't an assassin called by Kraus to give him an advantage in the inheritance problem, then maybe they should speak frankly to Kraus beforehand, creating a common front to resist anything disadvantageous to the four siblings. If she was Kinzo's assassin, whose purpose was to keep the inheritance from being handed over to the four siblings, the enmity between Kraus and the other siblings could only become a weak point and benefited the enemy. Well then, please enjoy at your leisure. Again, do you guys say leisure or leisure? When he finished explaining the reasoning behind the table setting and the cooking, Goto tried to leave the room, but Kairi called him to a stop with a small voice. Yes, Kairi-sama, what is it? Please excuse me. I was under the impression we had company today, but can we expect to be joined at the dinner table? She had planned on saying it nonchalantly, but unfortunately it reached the ears of Natsui, who was sitting in the next seat over. It seemed that Natsui had heard it as, even though the guests are here, why hasn't the host come to dinner? In other words, that Kairi had asked whether Kinzo was going to join them for dinner. The family head is not at his best, so he said he would take dinner in his study. I believe my husband explained that in the beginning. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. Natsui's reaction instantly told Kairi that this unknown visitor was also unknown to Kraus and his wife, which meant, on the chessboard inside Kairi's mind, she could hear the clattering of the pieces as they rearranged themselves. What do you mean? We have company? Battler, who had been sitting next to Natsui, seemed to have heard Kairi's words without misunderstanding them. Thinking it strange that someone else would be invited to today's family conference, he spoke up incredulously, and thanks to that, the uncomfortable feeling building in the siblings' chests suddenly exploded. Everyone looked at Goto at the same time. Judging by the reactions, it was clear that no one here had invited that mystery woman. For an instant, Goto was startled to find everyone's gazes gathered on him, but because of his naturally vain personality, this actually gave him a feeling of superiority. Therefore, he answered in an extremely calm and graceful manner. That is correct. Our guest wanted to eat alone in the VIP room and is being served there. That extremely graceful and reasonable response of Goto's made it obvious to everyone that a 19th person, a visitor, existed. The VIP room? A guest? What? Who are you talking about? Natsui's words echoed the question that everyone who didn't know about the appearance of the Golden Witch was thinking. For a while, Goto was disoriented, caught completely off guard by this sudden interrogation. This was a guest who had been treated with such deep respect. He hadn't imagined that Kraus and his wife might not even know about her. The guest is, Beatrice-sama? Beatrice! See? Beatrice came! Ooh! Maria had been telling the other cousins over and over again that she had met Beatrice that day. The cousins had answered flippantly, but they hadn't believed, so their eyes grew wide. So sorry, I totally thought you were joking, Maria. So she really was there? By Beatrice, you mean that Beatrice with the gold? Ooh, I've been saying she exists the whole time. No one believes. Sorry, Maria-chan, that's not how we meant it. After learning that everyone had doubted Beatrice's existence, Maria, who had been in a good mood all day, completely lost her temper. George, who sat in the next seat over, tried frantically to calm Maria. Goto? Is this some sort of dinner entertainment? Quite a performance! Aniki, quit playing dumb. You called her here, right? Called? Called whom? From where? Nay-san, let's be clear about this. Who is she? Surely you aren't going to tell us it really is the Beatrice in the portrait, right? I don't have a clue what you people are talking about. Goda, you really aren't joking, right? I was just ordered by Genji-san. Call for Genji! Immediately! I can't do that with a straight face. I can't do that and not laugh. I was trying to like, oh, it's like, oh, that's the sound of Natsui. Be like, oh no, all like, and it's just like, no, I can't do it without laughing. Call for Genji immediately. When Natsui yelled, Goda sped out into the hallway. The sound of the door being thrown open was the spark that suddenly set the dinner table ablaze. So you're saying you're in the dark too, Iniki? Who called her? Was it Dad? I don't know anything about this. It seems you people think I've been pulling the strings behind the scenes, but that's a huge misunderstanding. Calm down, Krausny-san. We've gone past the stage of skirmishing with each other. If you're saying even you don't know who this mystery person is, then something crazy's going on. Hideyoshi-san, can't you be a little more discreet with your words? My husband would not invite unnecessary people to the family conference. Obviously. What are you people talking about? Are you saying the witch of the portrait has broken out of her frame and appeared? It's not as though anyone's actually met this witch face to face. I met her. Ava and Rudolph nodded at Rosa's proclamation. Ooh, I met her too. Uncle Kraus, believe it. Believe Mama. Ooh. The brief tension was broken and Maria also started to make a ruckus. By now the room was thoroughly wrapped in chaos. I don't have a clue what's going on, so what does it mean? Does it mean the witch who gave Grandfather the gold is showing up as a special guest this year? But is that really true? Aunt Rosa didn't see it wrong, did she? I met her too. Ooh. Aunt Rosa, are you sure? Yes. Maria and I met her, and we even talked to her. I met her. That was definitely a witch. Believe me. I definitely didn't see it wrong or hallucinate or anything. What on earth was that? In the instant before the typhoon arrived, Rosa definitely met a witch in the rose garden. But the scene had been so hard to accept as truth that the more she spoke of it like this, the less she understood what it was that she had encountered. Ironically, since she was losing her composure, the more frantically she tried to cling to her claim, the more confused and hazy the thing she was describing became. Because of that, it only took a single, calmly spoken sentence to confirm the nature of what she was describing beyond doubt. I also met with her. I greeted, well, I couldn't really call it that. I exchanged a few words with her. It's definitely not something that Rosa-san just saw wrong. Kairi-san, are you serious? Yes. But she didn't tell me her name, so I can't say for certain that she was Beatrice. However, and sorry if this is subjective, but since I met her in the entrance hall, I was able to compare her face with that of the portrait. My first impression was that this portrait has to be hers. This is all just subjective. That isn't possible. In the first place, where did that woman come from? The only boat arriving today was the one that brought all of you here. Was she on the boat? Well, it's hard to say for sure. Of course, I don't remember any woman like that getting off the boat with us. Oh, is that all? Can you prove there wasn't a boat besides the one we rode on? You can't. You can't prove one didn't arrive. Makes sense. If another boat did arrive, it might be possible to prove it. If someone saw it and said they saw it, then you've done it. Then you're done. But it's impossible to prove that such a boat didn't arrive. Even if everyone says no such boat arrived, that they didn't see it arrive, you can't prove that they didn't arrive secretly. It's a thing they call a devil's proof. It'd be simple to prove that the devil exists. All you have to do is meet a devil. But it's impossible to prove the devil don't exist. Just by saying that no one has ever met a devil. You can't deny the possibility they're all hiding away somewhere humans can't go. You can't deny the existence of aliens for exactly the same reason. until humanity searches the whole of space and can show perfectly that aliens don't exist. You can't be sure they don't exist. And it's definitely impossible for us to ever check the entirety of space for the existence of aliens. Therefore, while there may be a number of ways to prove that aliens do exist, it will always be impossible to show proof that denies their existence. So any discussion about there being a second boat would just be a waste of our time. She wasn't on the boat with us. That much is a fact, so she must have arrived on the island through some other means. That's right. There may be no need to discuss how she came here. What's important is that she's actually in this mansion now and doesn't feel like having dinner with us. Okay, let's review. Right now, there's another guest on this island other than the 18 people with the Ushiromiya family, and this is a guest even Aniki and Natsui-san don't know about, right? I know nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Be silent for now. Your headache will get worse. It is as my wife says. I have no idea what you people have been talking about up until now. Then there can be only one answer. Father called her here. Called her here for today's family conference. For the family conference? Again, why? I don't know that. I'm questioning you because I thought you might know. Ava, could you give it a rest? Kraus-Nissan said he doesn't know. So here's what we've got. Father stealthily invited the witch in the portrait as a secret guest, and she met with Rosa-san and Maria-chan, and then Kairi-san. That's all for now. If she has something to say to us, she could just show herself right away. Now we've got to wonder why she shut herself up without greeting us. Does this mean Dad, who never gave a crap about this family conference in the first place, secretly called a new mistress here and had her wear the clothes of his ideal witch? This day is too important for that explanation to fly. There can be only one reason. To join in on the family conference. She wants to claim some right to Father's inheritance. Ridiculous! The family head wouldn't have something as filthy as a mistress. I told you to be quiet. I've lived in this mansion with Father all this time, and I've never heard a thing about something like that. If we stretch plausibility to the limit and assume Father had an illegitimate child with some mistress decades ago, then maybe Father searched her out and called her here today. Is that what you're trying to say? Dear, it's absurd to think Father has such a child. To waste the noble blood of the Ushiromiya family on a mistress. This is nothing more than a few people making wild claims. It's obviously a fantasy, a delusion, a daydream. Or is everyone taking part in some kind of act to trick my husband? What act? If anyone's acting, it's you. Quit it, Neke. Natsui-san may be a bit over-vehement, but she's right. Kairi saw her. I didn't. Neither did you, Neke, but Rosa did. But that means she exists. There are people who can prove she exists, so we're sure right away that she does. It's the opposite of a devil's proof. And I want to meet her too. I want to ask her directly what kind of business she has with the Ushiromiya family. I agree with you on that. I do indeed wish to inquire. Usually the way I see that word is with an I. Does it have a different meaning with the letter E? Do I pronounce it differently? I honestly don't know. As to what business she has on Rokkanjima. Don't play dumb. There's only one thing she could be after. Father's inheritance. We should work out our future plans with a lawyer who's hot on inheritance issues. If the mistress claims equal rights as mother, then our shares will be cut in half. But wait a second, everybody. Genji-san will come very soon. He knows everything. I'm sure he'll answer our questions. Until then, let's stop talking about this. Hey you, kids. Sorry, but the adults have to start talking about something complicated. Return to the guest house. Rosa yelled at the children, slightly overcome with emotion. The children didn't understand why they were suddenly being yelled at this time, but Ava and the rest realized it too late. They were talking so bluntly about the filthy topic of the inheritance right in front of the children. Of course, they wouldn't want their children to remain, so they all immediately agreed with Rosa's plan. That's right, just as Rosa-san says. George, take all the cousins and go back to the guest house. You all play nice together. George, Do as you're told. Take all the cousins and leave right now. Well, wait a second, Mother. We still haven't finished eating. Ooh, and dessert hasn't even come yet. Ooh. We will have Gota-san take dessert to the guest house. So leave. Are we going to carry plates in the rain? I was still eating that. Jessica, from here on the adults will be talking together. Go. Sure. Even though I'm still eating? Well, guess I won't be the only exception. Thanks for understanding, Battler-kun. But you sure are lucky. Huh? Why? I'd want to leave if I could. I bet. I'll let you adults enjoy your happy family chat about the inheritance. I will also leave my seat. At any rate, it appears my turn will not come tonight. Nanjo quietly rose to his feet. From his seat in the farthest corner, he had been calmly watching the whole discussion without butting in. Surely that reaction of his was very adult, just what you'd expect of a calm old gentleman. When Nanjo rose from his seat, it ended up encouraging the others who were supposed to leave. The children noisily rose from their seats, and as they hurried to the hallway, the servants returned. I apologize for taking so long. I have called Genji. I was checking to see that all the doors and windows were shut, so it took me some time. My apologies. Come on, children, to the guest house. Gota-san, my apologies, but could you carry the children's portion of the dessert to the guest house? Is that what you wish? It seemed Gota wasn't amused to see the dinner he'd worked so hard on interrupted like this. He sent Natsui a look as though asking her whether that was really okay. Do as Rosa-san says, and it will not be necessary to set out dessert for us. Do not approach the dining hall until we call for you. Tell the rest of the servants to do the same. Understood? Yes. As you wish. Come, everyone. Shall we go? Maria-san, you mustn't trouble your mother anymore. Ooh, I want to talk about Beato too. No. Maria-chan, could you tell us about Beatrice in the guest house? I really want to hear about the witch. Okay? Ooh. You're pretty darn smooth, George Nissan. It's like you know autism no jutsu. I'm impressed. Are you sure you don't have kids? You're too used to this, Ihi. George's words had completely restored Maria's good mood, and now she took the initiative, telling the others to head on to the guest house. It looked like Gota didn't like being kicked out himself, but he couldn't disobey Natsui, so he left the room with Battler and the rest, closing the door. Is there some way I might be of service, everyone? Yeah, there sure is. We've got a whole bunch of questions. In fact, every one of us does. So much so that we almost want to have a lottery to see who gets to ask first. But no matter who wins the first lottery, the first question will be the same, won't it? That's right. Genji-san, answer me honestly. Who is this person called Beatrice in the VIP room right now? Hideyoshi's claim that advertising doubled the taste was apparently right. After being chased out to the guest house, the kids and Nanjo had gathered in the cousin room and were eating the cake that Kumasawa had brought for dessert. It was both wonderful and high class, topped with lavish amounts of cream and decorated deliciously with fruits. But delicious as it was, it didn't quite taste as good for some reason. Without Gota-san selling it, it isn't nearly as good. And if we asked Kumasawa-san to sell it, she'd say it was made of mackerel. Ooh, really? You can make cake from mackerel? Oh, absolutely. And as you can see with this very cake, if you mix the squeezed juice of mackerel with flour and eggs, it comes out all fluffy. That'd be incredible if true. Maybe mackerel cake will show up on the new menu at one of the father's restaurants. Wahaha. After all, mackerel is full of nutrients and sounds healthy. It might get really popular with women and the elderly, but I'm not going to get anywhere near it. Girls won't eat something that weird. Even the elderly would wish to decline. Oh, but it's delicious, you know? Everyone then killed Kumasawa. Kumasawa was really cheering up the mood with her classic mackerel jokes. But the sound of the downpouring rain kept turning their attention towards the mystery guest. In the end, they showered Maria with questions again, since she was the only person to have met Beatrice. I can't believe it. She was actually telling the truth? You make it sound like though you've never believed it. This Maria meets a witch business isn't news to you. Yeah, I thought it was just one of those fairy tales you'd expect from a dreamy kid that age. She exists. Beatrice exists. Every year when we come to the family conference, I meet her and we play together. That's right. Although Beatrice-sama doesn't usually show herself, I hear she sometimes unexpectedly appears before honest people with clean hearts. Oh ho ho. Beatrice referred to that character in the fairy tale about Rokkenjima's witch. To keep Kinzo in a good mood, the family and servants acted as though they believed in the witch of his delusions. That's how Rokkenjima's fairy tale, or maybe the ghost story, had come into being. To the family members who knew the backstory, the fairy tale of the Golden Witch wasn't something to be taken too seriously. However, they were never able to say that out loud in front of Kinzo. Because of that, the legend of the witch carried a lot more weight to someone like young Maria, who didn't know the story of how it had come into being. That's why Maria believed in the legend of the witch. She accepted it entirely. That was only natural for the imagination of a girl who believed in witches. So people had avoided saying things that would betray her dream. On the contrary, they had worked together to say and do things that would help liven up her dreams without her knowing. So when Maria was showing us the candy from supposedly came from Beatrice, I feared someone subtly slipped it into her handbag. I have done similar things a few times in the past, secretly placing sweets somewhere. I imagine even Kumasawa-san, or rather all the servants, everyone in the Ushiromi family, has done it once or twice. So, if it'll make a small innocent kid happy, you might place a sweet somewhere and have everyone join in on keeping the secret alive for her. Come to think of it, I'll bet you do that kind of thing all the time, George and Nikki. Who knows? It'd probably be boorish to admit such a thing out loud. George admitted it while being extremely wary of that Maria didn't find out. In other words, it's kind of like Santa Claus. To protect a kid's dreams, the parents play together and lie, setting the presence at the bedside of a child fast asleep. After all, you want to protect a kid's dreams, right? Obviously, I've known Santa doesn't exist for a long time now, but if there's no reason to wake up from a dream like that, I wish I could have believed it all my life. Because adults know that the world is filled with terrible things, they all want to at least protect the pure dreams of child. Ooh, Beatrice exists. Exists. Yes, she does. Beatrice-sama does exist, right? Some time ago, when I was drying mackerel to make some black tea suddenly. Well, it basically goes something like that. Supposedly, at least. So simply put, this was supposed to be a witch that no one but Maria believed in. I wouldn't phrase it quite like that. The point is that we didn't believe. We were all trying to give her a little chance to believe. So this is not about betraying a child's innocence, but Santa doesn't exist in reality. If you don't want kids to be all disappointed when they learn the truth, you'd better be off not showing them that dream in the first place. Is the fact that I think like this proof that I'm still a long way from becoming a full adult. The true nature of Rokkenjima, which was finally starting to take shape in Battler's mind. However, the current situation overrode this understanding, and in fact it completely overturned its very premise. So, we thought we knew what was going on, but now Beatrice-sama the witch has actually appeared in reality. Is that it? And judging by how freaked out our parents are, it looks like she wasn't an invited guest. Now it's starting to get interesting. There's no reason for us to simply assume that a woman called Beatrice doesn't exist. It's what Uncle Rudolph called a devil's proof. None of us knew that a woman calling herself Beatrice existed. But that's not the same thing as proving that Beatrice doesn't exist. Dr. Nanjo, you've been friends with grandfather for a long time, right? At one point during the family conference, I was questioned quite thoroughly by Kraus-san and the others. They wanted to know if long ago Kinzo might have had a mistress called Beatrice and an illegitimate child with her. I get it. Our parents have their heads full with the inheritance problem, so of course if the daughter of a mistress like that showed up, it'd be troublesome for them. Kraus-san and the rest probably asked Genji-san about it first. However, Genji-san is an aide who's sworn loyalty to Kinzo-san and is probably a friend more trusted by Kinzo-san than myself. I doubt he told them anything. So next, they went to ask me, as an old friend of his. And, did grandfather have a lover called Beatrice, Dr. Nanjo? He did. No, I have never met her. However, I have heard from Kinzo-san that he had a relationship with a woman like that. He said she passed away a very long time ago. She's dead. So did the two of them have a kid? That I do not know. But Kinzo-san always says the reviving Beatrice is the goal of his research. Usually if one loses a mistress but has a child left behind to remember them by, they pour all of their love onto that child. Therefore, we naturally assume that there was no such child between Kinzo-san and Beatrice. So that leaves us another devil's proof. Yeah, it's impossible to prove that a child between him and the mistress didn't exist, so now that this child actually has appeared, we have to assume she did exist after all. That's a bit of a rushed argument. It's more realistic that someone caught wind of the trouble with the Ushiromi family inheritance, knew about grandfather's relationship with the mistress long ago, and impersonated her trying to take a slice of the inheritance for themselves. Sure, that is realistic, but we can't deny the possibility that she really is an illegitimate child. One who lived in isolation, forgotten by grandfather, and who's returned for revenge, right? Revenge? What do you mean? Sorry. Guys just like to dramatize stuff to make it sound dramatize. Make it sound interesting. I've seen too many weird dramas. Normally that might have come off as a light joke, but the joke had landed after an uninvited mystery guest calling herself Beatrice had marched in on the day of the family conference, where the bloody argument that the inheritance had become took center stage. There was no way Battler's joke would be welcomed with laughter, so it was really a big help when Nanjo laughed brightly to calm everyone down. I see, that does sound quite intriguing. I would love to read a novel with a plot like that. Well, I don't think it could actually work. After all, right now on this island there's a full 18 people, right? If anyone tries to do something weird, they'll immediately get caught. And, thanks to the typhoon, they can't even leave the island. In other words, if you try to commit some crazy crime, you'd be screwed. I agree. And a dead end without any way to escape in a situation where everyone's really suspicious of her. I seriously doubt she could pull off a terrifying revenge drama like that. Probably not. In that case, it would be more realistic if she had come in secret, without making her presence known. I simply cannot imagine someone appearing openly to take revenge outside of some historical drama. Well, who knows, right? Revenge is based on emotion, not logic. If you got someone willing to go down along with the opponent, they might not be afraid of anything, not even the police or large numbers of people. It's okay, Jessica-chan. None of the disturbing things we're imagining will happen. Much worse things will happen. Like the battle royale between our parents over the inheritance isn't disturbing. That's right. Dad and Uncle Rudolph are pretty tough, and Aunt Ava's even trained in martial arts. We'll be fine. Yeah. Jessica didn't say it out loud, but she'd vaguely noticed that her own father stood in opposition to all the siblings on the inheritance issue. They usually played nice in front of the children, but when that pretense was lifted away, like it had been at dinner, the result would be tumultuous uproar. After realizing this, it was only natural for Jessica to be frightened at the thought that her parents might get caught up in some kind of trouble and become human sacrifices for something terrifying. Seriously, George Aniki's right. Nothing's gonna happen. Even if she pretends she's a witch, what can a single human woman who can't even use magic do? Laughter noises. The sudden creepy laugh made all of them jump, and when they realized the strange laugh was coming from Maria, they were shocked again. I see, so that's how you see it, Battler. Oh, what is? Don't laugh all creepy like that. You accept Beatrice's existence for now. At least, you accept her as the 19th person and a guest. But that's all, right? You don't accept that the 19th person Beatrice is a witch, right? Of all the crazy things to say, of course that's what I think. Witches couldn't possibly exist. The only possibility is that she's a human woman claiming to be a witch. Isn't that odd, Battler? That's a devil's proof, isn't it? Of course witches don't exist, but just because you've never met a witch, that doesn't mean you've proven that witches don't exist, right? That's right. You're not wrong there. I can't prove that witches don't exist. However, even if I can't prove it, I can claim it. I claim that witches don't exist. Why? How can you claim that witches don't exist, even though you can't prove it? Because things like that don't exist. So that's QED. You finished your proof without any evidence or basis. Now there is a typical case of the ignorant willfully ignoring the shallowness of their own knowledge, a reckless suspension of thought. Then there's only one way to resolve this, Maria. The witch's side needs to show some proof of themselves. It's a devil's proof again. If you bring me a devil, we can end this right now. In this case, we can just get this woman calling herself Beatrice to display some wonderful, magnificent magic like twinkling stars. All she has to do is show us something that's impossible for humans, right? Come now, you two. Please, settle down. Kumasawa noticed that the atmosphere between them was getting worse and tried to calm them. It seemed as though Battler quickly realized that he wasn't acting like an adult, but Maria's expression didn't loosen. As she laughed creepily, she kept staring at Battler. You quit it too, Maria. Let's get back in a good mood, okay? If that's what you want, Beatrice will definitely show you something impossible for humans. When she does, you'll believe too, okay? You'll believe in Beatrice. Sure. If she lets me have a look, I'll believe. It's a chess debate between the witch and you, Battler. If you get checkmated, you'll believe in the witch. Oh, I like the way you put that. The witch shows her magic. The king is put into check. I quibble, saying it'd be possible to reproduce her feat using measures even a human could take, and my king escapes. Failing to do that would be checkmate, so that's a pretty good analogy. Battler, in chess, you and your opponent have pieces that move in the same way, so you can predict your opponent's moves. But you know what? What you aren't expecting is that your opponent's pieces might be able to move in ways far stranger. That sounds like cheating. You've simply assumed that since witches must not exist, the movements of Beatrice's pieces will be obviously the same as your own. But you know what? Sorry, Battler, but your chess partner isn't human. She's a witch. She can move her pieces in ways that humans can't. Right now, your understanding is flawed. Battler, you like Aunt Kyrie's chessboard thinking, right? Yeah, I like that style of thinking where you stand in your opponent's shoes. And that's why you'll get stuck. Even though your opponent is a witch, you won't accept it. So you can't understand the moves a witch might make, and your chessboard thinking won't work. Your knowledge of your opponent is mistaken. The very first premise of chessboard thinking is broken down. Ah, so that's your game. You cannot win in chess against a witch. I don't know what happened after that. We servants were strictly ordered not to approach the dining room. I see. So Shannon, have you ever met this person called Beatrice before? I don't know. That was a slightly odd way to say it. It didn't quite sound as if she was saying her memory was hazy. For us servants, Beatrice-sama is the second master of this mansion. Some people say we've spread the rumor because of Master's influence, but even when I'd just started working here, the story of Beatrice-sama was already being whispered of. I've heard about it before. If you don't show her respect, you'll get cursed. And at least one servant actually did meet with an accident, right? Yes. But it's true that some people believed more than others. I, believe respect for that sort of thing shouldn't be forgotten, so I've never doubted that she exists. I vaguely believe that a, shadowy being called the Golden Witch existed. And then that witch whose existence was shadowy and obscure actually showed herself and entered openly through the entrance hall. Is that what happened? I don't know. I don't know anything. When you brought her dinner, did you talk about anything? No, nothing. I see. Still, a witch that eats food somehow doesn't sound so realistic. Maybe, after all, it's just someone who knows about the witch's legend on this island. Someone who's taking on Beatrice's name. I think you've probably come to respect Beatrice and think of her as something like a guardian god of the mansion. So when a person appeared, actually going by that name, maybe you were a little disturbed? That's right. I guess that must be the case. George was slightly at a loss of what to do with Shannon's downcast appearance. Maybe not just Genji, but even the young servants had been ruthlessly questioned as to whether they knew anything about this Beatrice person, thinking that he tried to cheer her up somehow. Surely, just like Maria and Jessica, Shannon was unable to fully hide the agitation caused by the sudden visit of the person calling herself the Golden Witch. He had been so sure that was the case, but George probably had no way of looking into Shannon's heart. Shannon was bitter and sad. The door to the Golden Land would be opened. The witch had definitely told her that. That meant the demise of everything. Even if she accepted the ring from George, they would never be married now. No, in the first place, did furniture like her even have the right to be married? Even if the witch hadn't come to signal their demise, wasn't their relationship fated to fail? Sooner or later, had she turned her gaze to focus solely on those fun days spent with George, while purposely closing her eyes to the sad reality? What's wrong? You really haven't looked well for a while now, George-san. What does it mean to be engaged? Huh? It means making a promise to marry. But I think in that sense it means the same thing as marriage. To be honest, I want to take you home as my wife right away. But right now I'm in the middle of training, and it's still a long way from having the capacity to create my own castle. That's why I want to take you home with me, with my head held high only after I've become a full adult. I'm not talking about the distant future. I just want you to wait a short 3 years. But that doesn't mean I want to lie about my feelings for another 3 years. So I decided to give you an engagement ring. That might be shameful reason as a man. Maybe it's shameful to get engaged because I want you to wait, since I can't support my work and a wife at the same time yet. But I will definitely. Thank you very much. I understand that to you, George-san, an engagement ring means something different from one of many presents you'd give to a lover. Of course it's different. An engagement ring isn't a simple accessory. It's an oath between lovers, a noble promise left in the form of a ring. Giggle. So if we were to get married right away, it'd be completely meaningless, right? Then it wouldn't be an engagement ring. I'd give it to you as a wedding ring. Either way, I'd still be giving you a ring. So it's a sold sign, like saying, this woman is mine, nobody touch her. No, that's not what I... Cough. George knew that he was weak by nature. When he'd been captivated by Shannon and had sworn to become an excellent man, he had also sworn to throw away that weak part of himself. So even if he had been blunt about it, he chose to answer a little roughly. He was sure that doing so would bolster and reassure Shannon. No, that may be true. Sayo, I'll make you my wife. I won't give you to anyone else. I'll make you mine alone, so no one will lay a hand on you. That's what this ring is, without a doubt. Thank you very much, George-san. I'm truly happy. Then, George-san, if it was decided by fate that this engagement ring, that this promise could never be fulfilled, Would you still give it to me? Shannon tried to ask that, but she swallowed her words, because George had already spoken the answer. George had said it. He had said that to him. An engagement ring was infinitely similar to a wedding ring. Therefore, accepting George's ring had a significance far more sacred than a promise to marry. So, I'll stop calling this an engagement ring. From now on, this isn't an engagement. It's a wedding ring. Is that really okay? Is it okay to just proclaim that we're married without even God's blessing? Yeah. It's enough to tell God, Father, and Mother about it afterwards. We'll tell them all that we've been married. No one will be able to undo it. George, son, I'm not saying this because of momentary emotion. I'm not just looking at how you are now. I'm looking at the you of tomorrow and of the next day. I'm even gazing at you as how you'll be in old age and in the future as I say all this. You're always talking about that, George, son. About how you want to enjoy your old age slowly, surrounded by healthy children and grandchildren. Yeah. At that time, an older you will be beside me. That is what I expect. No, what I foresee. Yes. Because that day will surely come. Will it surely come? Yes. Surely. Definitely. And this ring proves it without words. Please. Show me. Huh? Here it is. George, thinking he was being told to show her the ring, hurriedly took out the ring box. Even though he had practiced so much, he hadn't been able to do it cool. But Shannon wasn't looking at that. In her straight and direct gaze were vague tears and a smile. She focused her eyes on George's eyes, knowing something she could see beyond his eyes. Please, show me that future. Yeah, I'll show you. Surely. I promise it. Not just until old age. After we die, too. Even when we become spirits, we'll always be together. Shannon wiped away her tears and took the ring box. Inside was a diamond ring worthy of blessing the two of them. George said the line that he'd practiced over and over again inside his head. I want you to put this ring on whatever finger you like and have that be your answer. So by tomorrow morning... Giggle. Shannon smiled and took the ring, and with a completely natural movement, put it on the ring finger of her left hand. It really had looked like such a natural, ordinary movement, and for a while George was stunned. This is my answer, George-san. Shannon! No, Sayo. Even when we become spirits, we'll always be together, George-san. There was no blessing from God, no pastor to witness, nothing. But the two who were married proclaimed it. Two souls were joined here today. Nay-san, you're a fool. Is that so? Even though you're furniture. I'm not furniture. Not anymore. Liar. Why are you fooling yourself? Even though you know you can never become human. Even though you know you can't become human unless you go to the Golden Land. Knowing that, why did you abandon the promise that would let you go there? Oh, right. By accepting the ring, that promise with the Beatrice-sama comes to nothing, doesn't it? Giggle, I'm sorry. From now on, you, George-sama, the master, everyone else are under the same conditions. 13 people will be sacrificed. Only 5 people will be invited to the Golden Land. And you rejected one of those places yourself. That's odd. It looks like you're the one with regrets, Canon-kun. You're the one with regrets, aren't you, Nason? You got engaged, right? Even though you knew it was a fate that would never be fulfilled. Yes, I promised that we would always be together for eternity. So you know what? In that instant, our eternity was completed. Even if we become sacrifices, it's already completed. So it's okay. Canon, you're the one who actually has regrets. We're furniture, right? will be freed no matter the result. So it doesn't matter whether we go to the Golden Land or not, and yet you're set on going there. You want to become human no matter what, right? Why? Because I want to become human. I've had enough of being furniture. Why? I wanted to fall in love too. Tears were coming from Cannon's eyes, and he howled. I liked Milady, and after seeing Milady that day, I started liking her even more. And when I heard that Milady also liked me, I was really happy. But I'm furniture, and I can't accept Milady's feelings. You're wrong. We may be furniture. We may be less than human. But that doesn't mean that we aren't qualified to love. I thought that if these feelings wouldn't ever come to anything, I'd be better off not having them. I just decided that eventually I'd disappear and that it'd be definitely hurt her. No, that's wrong. I was just frightened. I was just afraid, thinking that any love that couldn't be eternal was best avoided. Even though their lives last only a few weeks, cicadas fall in love and then vanish. But you'll never find a cicada that refused to fall in love simply because it'll end in a few weeks. It seemed that Cannon was still muttering his regrets, but by now it was all jumbled up with his sobs. That witch is detestable. Why did she plant these feelings in me? If only she hadn't pulled that bizarre prank, I wouldn't have paid Milady any notice. Beatrice-sama is detestable. To make you cry bitter tears, she played games with your fate. But I don't think things went as the witch expected. After all, knowing love isn't a regret that ties you to life. It is the destination we're supposed to reach in our journey through life. Well now, Cannon. That promise you worked so hard for now has come to nothing. Very well then. With this, the conditions for all the pieces are the same. There are 18 pieces. 13 will be offered as sacrifices. Who will the 5 survivors be? Or else? Will someone destroy this ceremony? Who? How? Wahahaha. This isn't a chess problem. It's a game on equal footing. I won't be cornering you one-sidedly. You'll be able to frantically escape my advances and force a tie, an invalid match. At any rate, I doubt you can manage more than repeating that over and over, and it probably won't be that difficult for you. However, this invalid match will continue forever until it eventually wears down your mind and kills it. That is when you'll accept your defeat and surrender to me. There's a reason I said it was a game of equal footing. That's because rules for my loss have also been established. There's nothing as boring as a game you can't lose, right? As for how to defeat me, that would be the epitaph that stands as an offering to my portrait. It's both the way to open the door to the Golden Land and the key to destroying my ceremony. I'll try to complete the ceremony in accordance with the epitaph. You'll try to solve the riddle of the epitaph, destroy the ceremony, overthrow me. Solve the riddle hidden in the epitaph, and expose the location of the vast sum of gold I gave Kinzo. What result will this game show us? I'm expecting a good fight, okay? Entertain me, Ushiromiya Battler. I have no objections. Natsui and I acknowledge it. Can't believe it, and I don't want to. But this is the truth, isn't it? Natsui, choose your words more carefully. She's this family's most honored guest. I also acknowledge it. Can't argue back. Yes, I acknowledge it. I have absolutely no complaints. I can't believe you actually... You have my honest respect. Me too. Incredible. I genuinely respect you, so I have to acknowledge it. I acknowledge it too. I still can't believe it. Still, what can I do? You've proven devils. It's your victory. The devil's proof was once a convenient excuse used to deal with unprovable facts, but now it's become your mortal enemy, has it not? Don't torture me, mighty witch. I've already acknowledged you. I resign. Kyrie, do you still have objections? I must have everyone in agreement. If you alone will not acknowledge my existence. As the witch laughed boldly, the siblings started getting frantic. They were afraid of displeasing the witch. Kyrie lightly closed her eyes, and after keeping silent for a while, opened her mouth. My apologies. I resign. Only Kyrie had faced the witch with stern eyes until the end. However, this had only resulted in her refusing to accept the truth for a short time. The truth, the being that was before her eyes, couldn't be denied. Devils had already been proven. I also acknowledge it. You are Beatrice, the Ushiromi family alchemist, and a user of great magic. I must acknowledge the fact that you are a witch. What is that sound that always fills my ears? Is it the sound of rain, the sound of a waterfall? Or could it be radio static? If not, I want it to be the sound of blood flowing through my body. I want it to be the sound of blood circulating throughout me, telling me that I am still alive. Is it morning? The light entering through a crack in the curtain was faint, but it at least told him that dawn had broken. Kenzo, still in the position he'd been when he woke up, still sitting in a chair and looking up at the ceiling, felt the blood slowly travel throughout his body. Judging by the clock, it was early morning, 6 o'clock on the dot. No matter how tired he was, no matter how deeply he slept, he always woke up at exactly this time, as though he had measured it with an hourglass. He didn't think of this as something to boast about, but he told himself that, as long as he could still manage this, his health couldn't be that bad. Morning has come, which means... It would appear I've avoided becoming one of the first sacrifices. Was I merely lucky when the roulette spun, or is this the fruit of my efforts? How irritating that I cannot tell the difference, but I mustn't be bothered by such trivialities. Kenzo was struck by a faint desire to see beyond the study door. After all, he might find traces of someone's vain struggle to break through the door, a sign that someone had tried to select him as one of the first 6 sacrifices. Humans are cheap creatures. Even though everything is ultimately decided by God, when humans are given good fortune, they arrogantly feel it was due to their own ability. That was why he wanted to check whether there was a wretched mark on the door. The very desire was human. And that was why Kenzo did not check. He often rejected desires that came to him because he was human. By doing that, he could be immersed in the feeling of sufficiency. I feel like I'm not saying that right. I feel like that word is not what I think it is. As though he himself had become a being that surpassed humans. He recognized human desires for what they were and guarded against them. Things that a human would want to do, he resisted. This eccentricity and rebellious nature had surely given him his rare genius, making it possible for him to succeed in his exploits as he revived the Ushiromi family in a single generation. Well then, Beatrice, what were the 6 pieces you took, and what will your next move be? Entertain me. My defense is perfect. I will not shame myself like last time. Remember the scorpion charm, Natsui's door, from episode 1? The servants woke early. They had to open the curtains, prepare breakfast, and complete various other tasks to welcome the guests to a new day. Goda was the most enthusiastic. During the family conference, he had been told to concentrate his efforts especially on cooking, and he'd been specially exempted from several tasks that servants normally must do. Goda, who was a show-off, seemed to be feeling particularly superior because of that. He let Genji and the rest prepare the rest of the mansion and worked on making breakfast in the kitchen. Genji split the work with Shannon and Cannon, and they carried out various tasks. Shannon headed to the dining hall and knocked. Last year, the family conference had continued into the early hours of the morning. It wouldn't have been odd if this year's conference had done the same. Considering the possibility that they were still having a discussion inside, she knocked. But there was no response, so she opened the door and said good morning. Good morning? Is anyone there? The room was cold, and the conference seemed to have ended a long time before. There was a tea set on the table from which they'd probably been drinking, arranged in a way that would make it easy to clean up. Cleaning up the tea was a servant's job. If the family members were extra generous and cleaned it up themselves, the servants would lose face. So it was truly a pleasant act of kindness for the family to do only this much. As she approached the table to clean it, she noticed something like a memo that had been left near the utensils and cups. Since it was right next to the tea set, Shannon picked it up, naturally thinking it was a memo for the servant doing the cleaning. Written there was not a request, nor was it a thanks for preparing the tea. There was just a single word. Shannon looked at it blankly and read it out loud. Chapel. A small sound kept repeating over and over. Normally, that sound would have been too trivial to be worth caring about. If only I could stop hearing it soon, I can go back to sleep right away, she thought vaguely. But no matter how much time passed, the sound did not end. It repeated over and over. "Aw, shut up. Who is it? Banging on the door this whole time." As soon as she realized that, she woke up. Someone was knocking. Then she noticed that it wasn't just a knock, but a voice as well. "Rosa-sama. Rosa-sama. Good morning. But wait. I'm coming now." It had been Genji's voice. Looking at the clock, it wasn't even 7 o'clock yet. It was clearly too early to wake the guests. Did something happen that was bad enough to cause this? She felt her sleepiness increasingly fade thanks to this premonition of misfortune. Though Genji was a servant, Rosa had known him since her childhood days, so even though she was slightly defenseless in her pajamas, she opened the door a crack and answered. "Good morning. I apologize for waking you this early. Did something happen?" "Yes." "Actually, at the chapel." Genji whispered something into Rosa's ear. For a second, it seemed Rosa couldn't understand what she'd been told. After having it repeated several times, she realized that apparently something strange had happened. Rosa closed her door for a second, changed her clothes quickly, and followed Genji towards the mansion. The chapel requires some explanation. It wasn't in the mansion, but in a grove behind it, a short walk's distance away. It had been built at the same time as the mansion, as though its walls had been repaired many times, making it look new from the outside. It was a very old building. Rosa dashed through the rain, along with Genji. Just like the previous night, the rain was falling in earnest. Eventually, the chapel came into sight from beyond a thin grove. Just looking at it from the outside, it seemed a place of dazzling beauty where a pair of young lovers might want to get married. However, Kinzo apparently viewed it as a very sacred place, so Rose and her siblings have been given strict instructions not to approach it unnecessarily. Even though they were all grown up now, approaching the chapel for any reason would still make them feel guilty, and also afraid, as if their father might get angry to hit them in the face. The servants' silhouettes could be seen in front of the chapel's entrance. Goda, Shannon, Cannon, which meant that all of the servants on the morning shift had gathered. Goda does not look excited. A short while ago, Genji had spoken to Rosa, telling her what the situation was. However, without laying eyes on it directly, she definitely hadn't been able to understand. It was probably the same for all the servants gathered here as well. Without seeing it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have been able to understand what was going on. On the door, at the entrance to the chapel, was something very large, drawn with a creepy, stringy paint that made one think of blood. Something like a creepy magic circle. What is this? When was it drawn here? The servants looked at each other. Goda was the first to open his mouth. My apologies, we don't usually enter this building, so we don't know when it was made. Then who was the first person to find it? It was me. When I went to the dining hall to clean up the tea set, I found a memo with chapel written on it. Shannon held out the memo with a shaking hand. Whose handwriting is it? It isn't Nissan's or Nason's. So after that you came here and found this, right? Yes. Rosa-sama, look at this. What? Happy Halloween for... what? Cannon pointed at a single line of English written below the creepy magic circle. Until it had been pointed out to her, she thought it was just another part of the magic circle. There, the following words were written in English. Happy Halloween for Maria. Happy Halloween for Maria? This creepy magic circle was for Maria? Happy Halloween. Yesterday, only one person had said Happy Halloween to Maria. The key phrase matched. It was the Golden Witch Beatrice. Well, what about Maria? She should be sleeping with her cousins, right? Did you check? My apologies. We just now realized that the Maria-sama's name was written here. We still have not checked. Quickly. What are you doing? I'll go check on Maria and come back. Tell Cross, Nissan, and the rest too. After that, follow their instructions. After saying that much, Rosa finally noticed that something was odd. Her own rank in this family conference was the lowest of the 4 siblings. Why had she been the only one called during an abnormal situation like this, when the other siblings hadn't been, even if Maria's name had popped up? Could it be? Huh? What? Yes, we tried to contact Kraus-sama, but we couldn't find him. And Madame was not in her room. You guys say Madame or Madam? Judging by the condition of the sheets, she might not have returned to her bed at all last night. Rosa felt something creepy crawling slowly up her back. Did you check inside the chapel? No, not yet. We tried, but actually the lock to the chapel is special, so the master key will not work. There is a single key that can open it, but that key is missing from the key box. She didn't want to get closer to the door with the creepy magic circle if she could. Rosa readied herself and approached, then tried pushing and pulling the knob. All she felt was resistance to the sturdy lock. We searched to see if there was a window we could enter through, but I think we'd have to break one of the windows if we wanted to check inside. What do you think? There's no way I can give you approval to do something like that. This is Father's precious chapel. At that time, the events of the previous day swirled around in the back of Rosa's mind. That's right, when I met that witch in the rose garden, didn't she hand Maria an envelope? Yeah, there's no mistake. She did hand it over. When Maria tried to open it, the witch told her not to do it yet, and then she surely said the time to open it will come soon. Rosa was sure there could be no mistake. The envelope Maria had received was... Did we ever remember to open the other envelope that we were supposed to open during dinner? After dashing back to the guest house, Rosa approached the cousin room while hiding her footsteps, softly opened the door, and peered inside. From inside, she could hear the healthy snores of typical young people. There were 4 children, and Maria was there, sleeping soundly. After breathing a sigh of relief, she entered the room with quiet footsteps. She was after Maria's handbag, which was resting on the sofa. Maria always liked carrying her treasures around with her. She was probably emulating how her mother always carried her makeup with her. Of course, she was just imitating her mother, so everything on the inside was junk. In Maria's case, it was full of small, creepy occult items, notebooks describing things of that nature, and so on. Rosa had never been happy to see her daughter walking around with things like that, which weren't girlish at all. However, trying to force Maria to stop had resulted in a big fight, so she decided to let it be. Here. This is it. A western envelope with the crest of the gold eagle. When she took it out of the bag, she realized there was a heavy, vaguely cylindrical object inside. She could tell by its feel and weight. There was no doubt. This was a key. After turning around and checking that Maria was still sound asleep, Rosa tore open the envelope and the contents spilled out into her palm. It was a key with an old and intricate design. Rosa gripped that key and dashed out. Was there a letter inside the envelope? Battler seemed to have noticed that sound, but after grumbling and turning over in his sleep, he started snoring again. Genji-san, could this key be the key to the chapel? Where did you... Yes, this is the key to the chapel. Rosa approached the creepy magic circle once again and put the key in the keyhole. There was a strong resistance. After it resisted for a short while, it stopped resisting with a clunk. Then, squeaking with a noise that hurt one's ears, it slowly began to open. Is anyone there? Her voice reverberated throughout the massive room. Of course, there was no answer. The chapel had a high ceiling, and the air was cold. And even on this rainy, unsettling day, it felt sacred for some reason. The servants timidly followed after Rosa. Rosa-sama, look at that. Ken noticed it immediately and pointed. Over there was the altar. In the place that would normally have a pastor preaching of God's love, there was a table that shouldn't have been there. At first, it looked like a dining table. There actually were gorgeous plates and utensils placed there, making it look like a child's birthday party or something. Upon closer inspection, the surrounding area had been decorated with pumpkins and black and orange ribbons. They were probably Halloween decorations. And there were people seated at the table. 3 people on each side facing each other, seated in chairs. They could be recognized at a glance. Kraus and his wife, Ava and her husband, Rudolph and his wife. But if you wanted to be sure, you'd still have to go even closer and check, because they seemed almost like dolls. Rosa and the rest had opened the door, entered all at once with the sound of many footsteps, and called out asking if anyone was there, and yet there had been no reaction. Even if Rosa and the rest assumed that they were being ignored, you would still expect there to be some kind of reaction, and there hadn't even been that. So at first it felt like someone had set down some dolls that greatly resembled those people. By now it wasn't just Rosa, Shannon and Cannon, and even Goda. They were all fighting frantically with the creepy emotion that grasped their hearts. Nissan? Nason? As she walked towards the altar, she called out again, but there was still no reaction. Yes, by now Rosa was sure of it. She was sure these weren't dolls, but the people themselves. This is... They grew close enough to see clearly what lay on the table. It still looked like an adorable banquet reminiscent of a child's birthday party. Plates piled up with sweets, cute pitchers with drinks, all kinds of pumpkin-shaped ornaments. They were all decorated in a Halloween style, and while this probably wasn't the time to be thinking it, Maria would surely have been delighted to see all this. That was the state of the table they sat in front of, apparently asleep. It was an eerie scene, as though a small, fun-looking Halloween party had been stopped in time. They're all... sleeping? When she approached even closer to them, she realized that there were snacks scattered all over the floor. Candies, cookies, soda, and chocolates, all with heavily fantasy-themed packaging. They were all scattered across the carpet, covered with blackberry and cranberry jam. Oh. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa. Blackberry jam. Cranberry jam. Rosa and the rest finally realized what the situation was. It was a Halloween party, a banquet for those not of this world. Kraus, Natsui, Ava, Hideyoshi, Rudolph, and Kairi were seated in chairs, apparently asleep, but all dead. How could you tell they were dead and not simply sleeping? That was because they'd been vertically sliced open from their chests to their stomachs. Kraus-sama. How cruel. The 6 of them had sat down at a Halloween party before having their stomachs split open, killing them. Then the jam covering the floor must be what overflowed from their stomachs once they'd stuffed themselves completely, right? No. The contents of their stomach had been scattered all over the floor. And that wasn't all. Out of their stomachs, it was almost as though they'd poured out, as though the snacks had overflowed from there. Candies and cookies and sodas and chocolates had poured out, stained with blood, and had scattered across the floor. What could have happened to have caused this? It's almost as though their stomachs were stuffed full, bursting with sweets, and it all poured out when their stomachs split open. Rosa remembered a certain shocking meal, a turkey that had been served at her own birthday. When it had been cut open with a knife, out flowed one of her favorite foods, but since she hadn't been told what was inside, the deep, deep red ketchup omelet rice poured out like bloody maggots. Pulsing, dripping, slimy, pulpy, squelching. The trauma of her youth was revived. Rosa felt a monster raging inside her stomach as the acid started to rise. Unable to hold back, she threw it all up on the floor. Her empty stomach had nothing but stomach acid. The scene in front of her was no fun Halloween party now. The three couples were enshrined right there, their stomachs vertically wrenched open with a gyukaba. So many snacks had been stuffed in there, pulpy, squishy. Blood and guts and sweets were overflowing onto the floor. Blood-stained, sticky, sloppy, pulpy, sweet snacks that made your fingers stick together. Gummy. But stained with entrails, sloppy, pulpy. What was that I stepped on just now? That didn't feel like candy or a cookie or a soda or a chocolate. I'm scared. What did I step on? I can't even look at the bottom of my foot. What a gruesome Halloween party. From far away, it had looked truly beautiful, fantastical, and fun. But from up close, it was horrible, disgusting, yet somehow still beautiful. Rosa's wild thoughts tried as best they could to escape her throat, with a loud voice that was neither a scream nor a roar. Kraus-sama. This is horrible, just horrible. Call an ambulance! Call the police! That's right, the police! Police. If a word so tied to reality hadn't come out of Goda's mouth, Rose and the rest would probably have found themselves unable to escape that nightmarish party even now. But it wasn't because they thought a police might be able to do something. If they didn't keep yelling about the police, it felt as though another seat might be set up in this demon's party and given to them. Their own chests felt like they were expanding unpleasantly from the inside, rumbling, churning, and it was surely because candy was about to overflow from their stomachs. Rosa, once again tortured by a desire to vomit, threw her stomach acid up on the floor, and then she searched to see if there was any candy in it. Anyway, cough. Rosa coughed violently again, forcefully spitting out the stomach acid that had been burning in her throat. She realized that by now her whole body had been covered in a filthy sweat. Genji-san, Shannon-chan, please contact father and ask for instructions. Goda-san, go at Cannon-kun and call the police. Then have Dr. Nanjo come here. Why even bring Dr. Nanjo here? It's a bit too late for medical care. The servants accepted their orders and dashed outside. After watching them leave, Rosa once again stared at her siblings with whom she had spent good times and bad, and their partners. Though there could be nothing more tragic than the scene, for some reason she was tempted to describe these fantastical deaths as beautiful. They aren't here.